CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazis joins us now for more. Olivia, how did we get here?
Yeah, Lindsay, there are decades of tension and fraught history here that you were covering with Willie, but one key inflection point was obviously the U.S. withdrawal in 2018 during the first Trump administration from the original nuclear deal, which paved the way for Iran to expand its uranium enrichment. That came to a head last June during what's now known as the 12-day war. Israel launched sweeping strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, and after Iran retaliated with missile and drones, the U.S., now during the second Trump administration, carried out Operation Midnight Hammer to target Iran's three main nuclear facilities. There was a ceasefire, but that core issue was still unresolved. The Trump administration asserted that the nuclear program had been obliterated, but that was near impossible to confirm. Iran stopped cooperating with nuclear inspectors, and the U.S. and Israel were both alleging recently that it was making efforts to restart its nuclear program. That, in turn, prompted these renewed, unclear how robust efforts to hold talks directly and indirectly with the Iranians about constraints on their nuclear program. And that was where the discussions were centered, despite some calls by officials that for these talks to be meaningful, they had to include Iran's ballistic missile program and support for regional proxy groups. They didn't, and the president decided there was no deal to be had. The joint campaign obviously was launched just days after the talks fell apart on Thursday in Geneva.
What more are we learning about why it had to happen now?
Right. So just today, as you were covering, we heard from senior Pentagon officials, the president himself, and most recently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio on that why now question. Rubio seemed to have the most to say on the Hill just before briefing the Gang of Eight leadership again. He is now saying that the imminent threat wasn't necessarily an unprovoked Iranian strike. Rather, it was the expectation that if Iran were attacked, it would immediately retaliate against U.S. forces. And because the U.S. anticipated Israeli action, he said today, the Pentagon had assessed the U.S. wouldn't want to wait and absorb that first blow. Instead, it needed to act first in order to reduce American casualties. Secondarily, he also said that Iran, within a year to 18 months, could have enough missiles and drones to effectively counter military action, and so the U.S. had to strike now when Iran was weaker rather than later. He said this had to happen no matter what.
Olivia Gazis, thank you.